So transitions, you love them, I love them. I made a pack of 10 of them. This is a free download for you guys, but it is listed as a few dollars on the store if you feel like supporting me. But if you wanted 100% off with no credit card or anything like that, use the coupon free at checkout. Just add it to your cart and then go to checkout. Use the coupon free and you can get it 100% off. Now, for the more advanced users, I've included the After Effects project file and Premiere Pro so that you can customize them to however you like. Literally drag and drop your logo into it and that's it. For the more basic users, I've rendered out a final result for you guys without logos, so you'll still get the 10 of them just without your logo. And that's totally cool. Transitions are really nice. So that's for your stream, so stingers for your stream, and transitions for Premiere Pro and After Effects if you want to use them like that. They're small file sizes, so they're optimized for streaming. It's not going to put any load on your computer as well. So let's jump in and take a look at these 10 transitions. Alright, so now that you have a good idea of what these transitions look like, for those who don't want to customize their own transitions here, I've already rendered out all 10 of them without the logo so that you can just have a transition that looks good. So here's one for example, and you can just see it's got all the sound effects with it, so you don't have to worry about that. So very cool, all the transitions are there, and then obviously in this pack there's all the assets. This is for the After Effects stuff, and then this audio is for the Premiere Pro stuff, and I'll show you what that means. So those of you who want to customize these to make them look the way you want, add your own logo and such, this is the After Effects file here that you'll get, and in here this is where you do all of your editing. And then in Premiere Pro, this is where you actually render out the file so that it's compatible with Streamlabs or OBS or whatever you use for your stream software or your video editing software. This also makes it a small file size, and I'll show you how to do that as well, so that it doesn't tax your streaming software or your editing software. So let's take a look at the After Effects project here, and I'll show you how this is all broken down. So there's a clean background here. It's an alpha background, and it's just got these shapes moving across. This is just the first transition. It doesn't have any sound effects in the After Effects project. That's okay, it's all in the Premiere Pro project. So you can see here that's how the effect works. Now if you want to change the color of these, you simply just select the layer that you want to change the color to, go to the color picker here, and let's say you want red, and it updates in red. I'm going to cancel that because I'm going to keep it the same. The same for the other layers, change those colors the way you want. Second transition is pretty much the same process. You can see there's 3 colors here, and if I just double click into the sequence here, you can see there's these 3 layers, and these 3 layers you can change the color to whatever you want. So let's say red, you can change that to red. So we're going to go back here into the second transition, and I've locked this here. There's a few locked things for the beginner side of things, but if you're a more advanced user, you can definitely mess with it. The only reason why I locked it is just to kind of avoid you messing up the project, let's say, if you don't quite know what you're doing. And so then the transition 3, I mean, the whole system is pretty much the same. You select the solid, which is this top color here. You change the color to whatever you want, and it updates in real time. Same thing for the other ones. And then there's these 2 colors underneath. The same process applies to them as well. And again, for the more beginner side of things, I've locked some layers so that you don't accidentally mess it up or something. Now with the logo, when you want to change the logo, you simply double click the logo layer. You can delete this or hide this, whatever you want, and just import your own logo. And let's just say this is the new logo I imported. You just drag it in here and it's updated in real time. At the same time, this will update in real time in the Premiere Pro project so that when you want to actually render it out, you don't have to wait or redrag stuff or anything like that. The transition 4, I mean the whole system's pretty much the same now. The logo, if you want to change the logo, double click on it. Let's say you want text instead, right? So let's just go back in there and you can see that's updated now. So very neat, very simple. I made it as easy as I can so that you don't have to worry about the odds and ends and things like that. So transition 5, this is also a very basic one. Select the layer, change the color, whatever you want. Transition 6, also very similar to that. Transition 7, this is a glitch effect. You can see here. Now change the logo again like before. One thing you notice here is the shy tool is blue. That's because I've hidden layers that might be a little distracting or might, again for the beginners, confuse things. So I've just hidden those, but those layers that I've hidden, they're just these X's here. But just to avoid any confusion, obviously you can unlock them and you can position them wherever you want, but that's not a big deal. So I'm just going to hide those again, just to avoid the confusion. Now the background you can obviously change to whatever you want. Let's see, you want a red, that's cool. It's going to cancel that. So you can change the colors to anything and then obviously update your logo in here. So double click here, change the logo, close that. I'm going to close that one as well. I'm going to go back to that previous one and it'll be updated like before. Transition 8, pretty much the same. Change your logo by double clicking on it. This matte is actually going to be locked so you don't have to mess with that. Same thing with the colors, select them and change the color up in the effects and controls tab here. Number 9, pretty much the same process, very similar to number 7 actually with a glitch. And then number 10, a very basic one. It's set up pretty much similar to all the other compositions. Now we're going to jump into Premiere Pro and I'm going to show you how to render these files and I'm going to show you the sound effects that come along with it as well. Okay, so transition 1 through 10, it's all set up here, nice and easy. Each transition has its own folder so that it's nice and organized. I've got a background color here just in case you want to see what the transition looks like with a background, but that's totally unnecessary. Just something for you if you wanted to play around with it. Now you can see there's these sound effects here, so if I just play this, you can see the sound effects are included in it. Same thing with all the other transitions. The video here is linked to the After Effects project, so if you make any changes in the After Effects project, it'll update in real time. Now, if you want to get daring and kind of explore, you can open these folders with the transitions, and you can take a look at them if you want. There's the composition, which is this main composition in Premiere Pro, and then this is the After Effects linked composition, which is After Effects here. I would recommend that you don't mess with these ones, because if you delete them or change them in any way, it might mess up your composition a little bit. So just to keep things safe, I wouldn't go into these folders, but you can if you know what you're doing. You can see all of these compositions are in brackets render me, which means this is the one that you need to render if you want that transition. Now the way you render these so that the file format is optimized with it being small and it doesn't tax the computer during editing or during the streaming, this is how you go about that. I'm going to do Control or Command M, then make sure I have a WebM format selected. If you don't have this, it's a plugin that you have to download. It's free. I'll leave a link in the description to the download for this WebM. You can also use QuickTime. I'll show you how to do that as well. But let's go with WebM for now. Obviously, just name it and choose the destination. Make sure your audio is checked and your video is checked because there are audio in these transitions. Make sure it's in 1920 by 1080. What you can do is you can just click Match Source and make sure you include the alpha channel as well. This is extremely important. If you don't check this box, your transition won't work as intended. What'll happen if this box isn't checked, when your transition comes through, you'll see a black background like this instead of a transparent background when your transition is on top of your video. So make sure this is checked. That way, this black will be transparent when it's in your editing software or stream software. And that's basically it. Make sure it's 2-pass encoding and high quality. You can do it 50%. If you increase it more, Sometimes it can take a long time to render, and that's just the unfortunate thing about WebM formats. It takes a bit of time to render out, but once it's rendered, it's all good. Then you just export it and you're good to go. And when you render the transitions for video editing instead of streaming, you have to render it out a little bit differently. Because you're rendering out in WebM format, it's highly optimized for streaming but not for editing. The reason being is that for some reason, when you try and edit a WebM formatted video in Premiere Pro, at least I know this happens in Premiere Pro, you don't have an alpha channel or a transparent background. So the way you change that for video editing, you go to the format here and you just change it to QuickTime, and then you go down to the video codec, do animation, make sure that it's a match source, and do alpha and 8-bit right over here. That's the button you got to click there. That's important as well. Obviously choose your destination and name, and then click export. That's literally the only difference between the streaming format for the transitions and the editing format. Otherwise everything stays the same. I have included screenshots of this format for editing, and I've also included another screenshot of how you should render out your transitions for streaming as well. Now I'm just going to quickly show you how to use this in OBS Studio. Alright, so when we're in OBS Studio, this process is going to be very similar with Streamlabs, OBS, and most other streaming softwares. The buttons might look a little different, or the process might be slightly different, but the whole principle is the same, especially with Streamlabs, OBS, and OBS Studio. So in OBS Studio here, what you're going to do is when you want to add your transition in, you're going to go to the plus sign under Scene Transitions. If you don't see it, you just go to View, go to Docs, and just make sure your Scene Transitions is checked. So once you have that, just click the plus sign and make sure you choose Stinger. Then just call it whatever you want. And what you're going to do is you're going to browse the file that you want to use for your transition. And once you've found that transition, just select it, press open. Now, this is very important. Every transition that I've made for you guys, the whole screen is covered at exactly 1 second into the transition. So what I have here is in milliseconds, it's 1000 milliseconds. That's 1 second in time. What happens is the transition point in milliseconds is 1 second. When the whole screen is covered by the transition, then the actual screen of the stream will change. So let me just show you, for example. Let's say this is 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds. I'm going to have my audio monitoring to monitor and output. That means that I can hear the transition and the stream can hear my transition as well. Make sure this is fade out to transition point, then fade in. That way people can hear you talking whilst your transition is going. Then I'm going to click OK. And you can see here if I change to the second transition, it does it all nice and neatly. It also has the sound effect when it does that, so I can hear that in my headphones and the stream can hear that. So if I just switch back, that's a good example of what it all looks like. Now, just to make sure this is all clarified, with my transition selected, if I go to the settings here, I go to the properties, if I change this, let's say to 100, just to show you what this actually means, this transition point. So if I click here, you can see the screen changes before the transition actually goes through. You need to make sure that with your transition properties, have it at 1000, because that's the point at which the screen changes, and that's 1 second into the transition. I've made every single transition cover the screen at 1 second to make it easy and simple for you. So with that at 1000, I'm going to click OK, and it's back to normal. So the whole screen changes when the transition has fully covered the screen, so you don't actually see the screen change from one to the other. So I hope you guys enjoy the download. If you did, consider subscribing, stick around for the future. Do a lot of visual effects, editing, filmmaking, streaming, downloads, things like that. So stick around for that. Leave a like, it would really help the channel out. Remember, you can get this whole thing for free. Just download it on the store, add it to your cart, and use the coupon FREE at checkout. You don't have to pay anything. But if you decide to pay for it, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. It really helps. But until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shooting.